You might not have ever thought about this, but the guitar is a uniquely difficult instrument because it has a really long neck, a ton of strings, and a bunch of different ways to play everything. And because of this, it can be very difficult to learn how to play all of your scales up and down the entire neck. As a result, we have many different methods to achieve just that goal. But of all of the methods, the cage method and the 3-note per string method are the two most common. And in this video, I'm going to provide you with a ton of evidence of why I believe the 3-note per string method is superior. But before we get to all of the detailed points that involve actually playing the guitar, I want you to just take a second to look at the different shapes and patterns that come from each of these methods. It's pretty clear that one of these systems has shapes that are, simply put, more uniform and more symmetrical. And when it comes to learning anything, humans are pattern-seeking creatures. If I draw two dots and a line, you see a face. There's no logical reason behind it. It's kind of just wired into us. And so it just makes sense to start with patterns that are easy to visualize, which will make them easier to memorize and thus internalize. And that's reason one why I think the 3-note per string method is better. But now we're going to get to all of the reasons that involve actually playing the guitar. So download the free PDF below, grab your instrument, follow along with me, and I promise you're going to have a bunch of big realizations along the way. But here's reason number two. I call it the anchoring principle, and it's actually really simple once you see it. As guitar players, we naturally like to lock our hand in place with one finger and build around it. When we can comfortably do that, certain shapes and patterns just feel better. Take everyone's favorite shape of all time, box 1 of the minor pentatonic scale. When I play licks in the key of A minor, you'll notice that my first finger is anchored to fret 5 across every string. And that anchoring on that 5th fret makes it effortless to navigate the entire box. My hypothesis is that the natural comfort caused by the anchoring principle is exactly why so many guitarists develop their first licks in that box of the pentatonic scale. It's why so many amazing classic guitar phrases live in this one spot across genres. We're talking blues, jazz, rock, everything. And here's where 3-note per string shines again. Every single 3-note per string pattern is built around this principle. You anchor your first finger in position, and suddenly the entire shape is comfortable and easy to navigate. You're locked into a great position, which combines perfectly with reason number 3, the natural reach of the hand. One of the most common things guitarists say is, I want to break out of boxes. And we guitarists always say that because we don't like the idea of being stuck in one place in one shape. Here's the beauty of the 3-note per string method. If you learn it the correct way, it can break you out of boxes automatically. And here's why. The human hand has a natural reach of about 5 frets on the guitar. Now, of course, some students feel that this stretch is difficult at first for various reasons like hand size, past injuries, and so on. But apart from players with injuries, I've never met someone who couldn't develop this stretch with a little practice and posture adjustments. And for my students with injuries or arthritis, we always find great workarounds, but that's a topic for a different video. The 5 fret reach gives you exactly 3 notes per string, which means when you're playing your 3-note per string scales, you're not just memorizing some box pattern. You're actually learning the entire real estate of the fretboard that your hand can naturally cover. This means you don't have to break out of boxes because you were never in one to begin with. Oh, and by the way, I know some of you have noticed and are probably wondering why every time I play this scale, I'm including a repeated note right here. Well, this goes back to exactly what I was saying about not really caring about being stuck in a particular pattern. What I'm most interested in when I'm working on scales in this way is having a good idea of all the notes I can comfortably reach. And so I want to know that I have the same note here and here, even if I'd never choose to play them right after each other. So that's why. But in my method of teaching this 3-note per string system, I also teach the version of this pattern that involves the shift, which is like this. but that's a whole different topic. I think it's really important to understand both patterns. But anyway, back to the point of this video. But of course, we don't want to just sit in one position with our hand anchored to one 5-fret span forever. And this is also where 3 notes per string really shines. There are 7 3-note per string patterns that span the full length of the guitar neck. And here's the trick. Each pattern is only 1/2 step or a whole step away from the next one. That means if you know your patterns, connecting them is effortless. A tiny slide to the left or right and you're immediately in a new anchor position, still covering the same natural 5-fret span with your hand. So if you can just picture it for a moment, once you've learned all 7 patterns, you can move up and down the neck seamlessly just by shifting your hand to the left or to the right. And suddenly the entire fretboard becomes one connected logical map. Now, I probably should have said this earlier, and I know a bunch of you already ran to the comments to say this yourself, but of course the cage method can work, and really anything can work. Quick example, Guthrie Trapp, you probably know him. He's an amazing player and he swears by the cage method. But I want you to just remember this next point. The best players in the world are not amazing because of their method. They're amazing because they are special. They are gifted. And this won't shock anyone. But I am not one of those gifted special players. I never have been. And because of that, I've always sought out the most logical and efficient ways of learning. And that's what brought me to this method. But anyway, let's get back to the points. But reason number 5 might be my favorite because it shows just how efficient this method really is. When you learn your 3-note per string scales, you're not just learning one scale. You're also learning modes at the exact same time. It's a 2-for-1 deal. So I know this part is especially confusing for a lot of guitar players, so let's do this one time together very slowly, and we're just going to focus on 2 modes to keep it even more simple. So we've been doing a lot of these ideas in the key of A major, and we know that this first pattern is the A major scale. Now, if I shift to the second pattern, which doesn't start on fret 5, it starts on fret 7 right here, this note is now B. Now, if I play this next pattern of the 3-note per string scales, we can think of this pattern as just playing the scale A major, but starting from the note B. But if instead of thinking about this in the key of A major, we instead think that this B is the root note, then this pattern becomes a different scale. It becomes a mode. Because if we're thinking from the root note B, this is now 1, this is 2, this is minor 3. And as we continue with the rest of the pattern, we're spelling out the Dorian mode. And as we continue up, the same thing happens again. So if we go from this B to the next note that's found in the key of A major, it's actually C sharp. Now, if I play this pattern with C sharp in mind, we have the Phrygian mode. But if I play this pattern and imagine that we're still just in the key of A major, then it just becomes another way to play the A major scale. I hope that is clear. So you never have to say, now I need to learn Lydian or Dorian in different positions because you already did it when you learned your scales the first time. It's baked into the system. And the system also gives you a very clear idea of the intervals of these different modes at the same time. This is one reason 3 notes per string feels powerful once you've worked with it for a little time. You're not just getting a scale fingering, you're getting a complete map of the key plus the modal identities, all for the same amount of practice time. That was reason number 5, and they say you shouldn't make YouTube videos of more than 3 or at the most 5 points because you will overwhelm the viewer. But you're smart people, so let's just continue. Up until now, we've been talking about the 3-note per string scale mainly in the context of, you guessed it, scales. But of course, music isn't just scales. We also have chords and arpeggios. And here's the beautiful part. The 3-note per string patterns connect perfectly to both chords and arpeggios, and as a bonus, they will also help you learn the thing most guitar players struggle with the most, and that's intervals. So if we just come to fret 5 and play this typical A bar chord that all of you have played so many times, you'll see that of course we have a bar, which means my first finger is anchoring on fret 5. But remember the whole anchoring principle. That means that we can also easily access our A major 3-note per string pattern. And it really helps to visualize it right connected to that A major bar chord. But then we can also take our A major arpeggio and visualize it on top of that as well. And you'll see that that maps perfectly over the 3-note per string pattern as well. So this is a really great way to start to visualize and connect all of these different ideas. And then if we go back to the idea of modes, if we move to the next note, which is going to be B, we have a minor bar chord. We have our Dorian mode, which again, with the anchoring principle, fits perfectly with our 3-note per string scale for a Dorian. And then of course our B minor arpeggio fits there perfectly as well, right over top of the Dorian pattern. So this really becomes a great way to just visualize and anchor everything that you're learning on the guitar. So when you learn your 3-note per string scales, you can then connect them with your chords and arpeggios, and suddenly all three things are living in the same neighborhood. You're not juggling separate concepts anymore, they're all unified. And when you're tired of playing scale tones, we have reason number 7, which is chromatic passing tones. Chromatic passing tones are the notes that live outside the scale, but we use them to lead into specific intervals. For example, you've probably heard this classic lick where you play the minor third on the way to the major third. In that context, the minor third is functioning as a passing tone. It's not actually part of the major scale. Now, once you get into sophisticated blues, rock, or jazz, the idea of chromatic passing tones becomes a huge topic, and it can be kind of difficult for a lot of players. But mapping chromatic passing tones onto the 3-note per string scales is as easy as filling in the gaps. If you take the 3-note per string pattern you already know and just drop in the missing notes, what you end up with is the chromatic scale, and you can use those for chromatic passing tones. And this next point is for everyone who wants to play fast, which, let's be honest, is basically every guitar player at some point in their development. The 3-note per string system is perfect for developing speed and technique because of its consistency. Each string has exactly 3 notes, which means your hand only needs to learn one repeatable movement. If you're a legato player, this is a goldmine. The hammer-ons and pull-offs fall into a natural repeating pattern that makes it very easy to build speed. You're just repeating the same mechanic over and over. And if you're more of an economy picker, the same thing applies. 3-note per string line up beautifully with that approach because, again, you're working with a single repeatable pattern with your right hand. And if you're an alternate picker, just pick the first 2 notes and hammer on the 3rd note to have your consistent picking pattern. So whether you lean towards legato, alternate picking, or economy picking, the 3-note per string system is built to help you get faster, smoother, and more controlled without unnecessary complexity. Now, I know that some of you are thinking, okay, great, I can play fast, but at the end of the day, that's still just a scale pattern, that's not music. Well, you're right. Playing scales up and down isn't very musical. But here's the thing, 3-note per string patterns are fantastic for creating musical ideas. Because you have 3 notes on each string, You can just start mixing up the order of the pattern to create little note groupings and sequences. Play them fast and you have a really amazing shred lick. Slow them down, add a bit of repeated notes and a bit of pick dynamics, and suddenly you got a lyrical melodic line. It's incredibly flexible. The same scale shape that gives you a high-speed flurry of notes can also give you a soulful expressive phrase, just depending on how you choose to order and phrase the notes. But here's the final and most important reason why the 3-note per string system is fantastic, and that is it ties everything together. Scales, modes, chords, passing tones, technique, it all lives inside the same framework. So instead of juggling separate systems, you're building one connected map across the entire fretboard. That's why 3-note per string feels so powerful. It doesn't just give you a way to play scales, it gives you a way to understand the whole fretboard. And there are a couple of other key concepts that will really help you understand the fretboard. This will give you the perfect way to connect your 3-note per string scales to your favorite chords and your pentatonic scale as well, and you can check that out in this video.